Hey everyone, Ruben here, Kinder Dog PDX, and this here is our 14, episode number 14 of Conversations About Something. As always, I am joined by Shane, and today we are going to talk about resources, dogs and resources specifically, and what those things, might look like for you and your dog. The reason why we're bringing this up is because we've had a lot of contact forms in lately with, people telling us issues that they're having with their dogs. And one of those issues is I was trying to give my dog some food or a treat, and another dog came up and then they got into a fight. And, it just goes into the conversation about resources and what those represent. And I think it also dives into, the dog's perception of us and those resources, right? Because if a dog has a good understanding of where their position is, those things don't become so valuable. It's not something that they think is theirs. It's something that's that's his and he's giving it to me, right? So with that being said, it's important for us to understand just again, how dogs view resources. So Shane, what could be a resource for dogs?
Food
is one.
toys,
All right.
food bowl, water dish, tug toy, bone. Anything really. Even the crate could be a resource.
The crate, the human. You could be a resource. The dog smelling along a fence line could be, there could be something.
The piece of chicken they found on the ground outside.
A stick, it can be anything, and it goes to just, I think a part of it is, where the dog, how the dog feels in general. Do they have an entitled mindset to where if I get something, it's mine, so it's important that we understand those things, right? And it's also I think we have to think about just why put our dogs into some of these positions, or we should know our dogs well enough that we understand what they might do and we train them accordingly to have better control over them, right? So if your dog has a tendency to resource guard sticks that they find, they should, for one, not be allowed to have a stick because they resource guard it, but you should also be able to out your dog from it and they move away from it. You should be able to recall your dog off of it. All of those things help to override how your dog feels about the resources, right? We had a very harsh introduction to the world of resource guarding when we first got our dog Oso. This was many, many years ago now, but it was the first day that we got him, and he was loose, because we didn't know about training. We did a little bit, but not like what we do now. And he was just loose. Shane had a dog, we had another dog, and Oso comes and sits right in front of me as we're standing up in the kitchen, and we're all standing around hey, look how cute that is. He chose me as his human, and we're that's so great. And
how cute is that?
Yeah, how cute is that? And then Shane's dog Zuma comes walking in front. He's just walking around. That's what the dogs are all just walking around. So Zuma just happens to walk by me, and Oso just instantly goes after him. And that was our first dog fight that we ever really saw, and it was in our own house. And we did learn quickly that, we can't just let Oso come and like sit in front of me, so I was like, I don't even know if we even like learned about it, but like we started just like moving around, to like not, because he can't guard something that's not there. If I'm continually moving around, he can't continually guard me, right? It's like the food bowl. The dog can't guard the food bowl if they're away from the food bowl. So if your dog is resource guarding the food bowl, we want to teach them how to out from it and move away and go to place or something like that. So that way we can safely pick up the bowl and he won't resource guard it. But that wasn't the only thing he would resource guard. He also resource guarded his bed. I definitely remember my ex at one point, she would try to go lay on the bed or something with him, on the dog bed, or go pet him or something, and he would growl and try to bite at her and stuff. And somehow we were like, oh, well, if you want to pet him, you've got to call him off of the bed. And then you can give him pets, and then you can go and send him back, And we did that for a long time. And that actually really helped, because it removed him from where he was powerful. But I think what it was also doing was like shaping in his brain that like, actually that's our bed, and you have the privilege of laying on it, right? I mean, were you living there with us at that time?
I don't know.
I can't remember, but like, he was just a heavy resource guarder, and so we did that type of training, it was more like not even really training, like lifestyle stuff, right? Like just being aware of, okay, this is how he feels about that thing. What things do I need to shift in order to make this successful? Right? What are your thoughts on like?
Well, I like the concept of it. It's like, this is mine, and I let you use it. And I think that's like not just for like the bed. Not that's like the bed, like the dog bed as well. The dog's toys, the dog's bone. Like these are my things that I'm letting you use in the meantime, And I think, like that was when I got adopted Polga, that was like, it was a dog that was almost a year old, and I didn't know her. Mm-hmm. So it's like I didn't know what made her tick, what didn't, I didn't know really anything about her when I got her. I just, from the first interaction that we had. And so, I was careful, like, of like not letting her on my actual sleeping bed. I was like, no, you're going in the kennel. And because like I didn't want, what happens if I try to move her? I didn't know. So
yeah, no, I think that's a
better
good
yet.
idea.
So instead of hey, try it out, see what I get. No, I'm going to set the boundary first. I'm going to build the relationship up first. Like, hey, this is where I sleep. You sleep over there, or you're sleeping on your dog bed here as we train.
Man, could you imagine that? Like the first day you bring the dog home, and you're like, okay, here's your dog. Here's your bed. Like you can be on my bed, or you can be on my couch, something like that. And then you go to move her. You're like, Polga, here. She doesn't move, and then you go to try to move her.
Yeah.
She growls at you, or like,
yeah, the fresh dog I first got. That was the day one. I've been like, bye.
Yeah.
But I remember, like, I don't remember which client it was, but I remember one of the clients, one of the dogs went through the training, started to go on with their lifestyle. This dog started going on the couch, and then when they tried to get the dog off the couch, the dog starts growling. And so they had to go back through, put the structure in. No, you're actually going on place. You're not going on the couch yet. I don't know what they're going on with now. I think that they've resolved the issue because that was a couple years ago, and I don't think we've heard anything back from that. And, but it's like, even the same thing with the toys. I don't know. how many times I've seen, or not seen, but like, you know, I hear people when they bring the dogs in, they talk about, oh yeah, you know, the dog growls when you go to grab the stick at it, go to grab the bone, the dog growls. It's like, no. You know, and so it's like looking at it in the big picture, right? How are these things available?
Yeah.
You know, that's like, you know, is it the dog just jumping on the bed? Is the dog just walking over and grabbing the bone? Is the dog just grabbing its toy, taking it to its favorite spot, and then laying there chewing on it? You know, I mean, because then you got to think about it. It's like, if the dog is able to practice all of those things, and now it's like, now we're stepping in and being like, hey, now it's too much, but the dog has the freedom to jump on the bed, the freedom to go get its own bone, the freedom to grab its own toys. It can make all these choices. And now when it's like, all right, we're trying to step in,
all of a sudden,
and now it's like, now we're just putting spatial pressure on the dog, reaching in, putting pressure on the dog. Like, no wonder it's growling. It's like, hey, what the hell are you doing? You're invading my space. You're making me uncomfortable right now. You don't do this normally.
Yeah.
I do these things, and you do your things.
Yeah.
So, you know, it's like, you know, how are these things available? All of that's going to play into how the dog sees us and each
Their
of these little
perception
items.
of those resources.
Yeah.
Yeah, you know, and so I think that just kind of, I think that falls into our next little segue, you know, of like us as the dogs, you know, I hate to use the word leader because it gets thrown around so much.
I like guide.
Guide, yeah. I think guide is a good word. Parent, you know.
I don't like that. With the dogs. No.
Pet parent. But you know, like the dog's guide, right? It's like we should be the one in control of those things. Also because it creates relevance to us. You know, if we allow the dog to just grab their toy whenever they want to, you know, we lose a lot of like value, right? Because then it's like, oh, if I want to go play with you, they might get bored of the toy within a couple of minutes because they can just chew on it whenever they please.
You know, at the same time, they may not even know how to play with the toy then.
Yeah,
it's just a chew toy then at that point in time.
Yeah, and actually we see that often.
I don't know how many dogs come through here and they don't know how to play. They just know how to grab something and then chew on it. And it's like, and it's not playing. It's not, that defeats the whole purpose of the toy. The toy is to play.
Yeah.
You know, and so it's like,
because there's differences between like a chew toy,
yeah,
a bone, an antler of some sort, and then like a tug toy, an engagement thing that allows us to connect.
It's going again.
Had a little technical difficulty thing there. Where were we?
Just the engagement with the dog and the toys.
Yeah, you know, us controlling these resources, you know, so bones should be put away, toys should be put away, and they should be brought out when you, the owner, wants to engage with them. That's when you're going to have a dog who prioritizes you, who's like, oh, what's dad doing? What's mom doing? Let's go see what they're doing, you know. I remember seeing that when I went to Nova Scotia and shadow with a trainer. It was like when the trainer put on the little, like, he had a bite suit thing, but he would put on the sleeve and the dogs would get jacked because they knew that like, oh, that's coming out. Now it's playtime, you know, or if they're Frisbees, oh, Frisbee's coming out. Now it's playtime, you know, and those dogs were engaged, right?
Yeah.
It's like, it didn't matter what was going on in the environment. Those dogs were like, I want to play with that toy because I don't get it all the time.
It reminds me of, you know, I know you've seen this. It just reminds me of when I see, like, you know, we used to go to the park with the dog with Polga and stuff, you know, and we'd be chilling in the tennis court doing our thing, or maybe we're out in the field, you know, but we would see someone come in with the dog and the chuck it and the ball. And they chuck it, the dog goes and runs and gets the ball, and then the dog grabs the ball, lays down and chews it. Then the person walks over there. They have to walk all the way back, walk all the way to the dog. They hook it on the chuck it, and then they throw it back the direction that they just came from. The dog runs over there, grabs it, chews it. Then they walk back to that side. And they're the ones actually running back and forth, playing chuck it with themselves. Right?
Dogs just kind of check.
But you know what I mean? It's just like the lack of engagement because, you know, that's the perception of the game. These are my things, I chew. You don't matter, I chew.
Yeah.
You're gonna give me that, I'm gonna take it and chew it. He doesn't know how to play.
Yeah.
Doesn't know the game.
You know, and actually you bring up the chuck it actually kind of brings into another point of, and I have a blog post on this, you know, it's called Leave the Chuck It, you know, and what that blog post is talking about is, you know, if you are at the park with your dog, and, you know, we don't advocate for dog parks, but if you happen to be at a park and some other people come in with their dogs, maybe you know them, you decide to stay there, you know, and the dogs start playing, don't bring out toys, you know, because like, can that other dog share toys? Can your dog share toys, right? Like, they're not humans, you know, so they don't have this perception of sharing resources, right? And we've heard this, we've been at this for 5 years. We've heard this hundreds of times. Dogs are playing perfectly fine, 10, 20 minutes, like everyone's just having a great time. And then someone has to bring out the ball or start throwing a stick around. And then inevitably, within minutes, there's a dog fight. All the time. And everyone is looking at the dog who started it, whatever. They're the bad dog now, even though just 5 minutes ago they were playing just fine, you know. And while some dogs, yes, can play with toys and, you know, they can have a reciprocal battle going on where they steal it from each other and this and that. His old dog, my old dog, used to be able to do that, but they grew up together. They were puppies when we got them, you know, like they grew up together, so that was okay. But then we got Oso, and then we quickly learned like that wasn't okay. You know, we were trying to do the same things we were doing with our other dogs and with this new dog, and we didn't have the same kind of history or anything like that. And again, it was another learn the hard way.
Yeah,
kind
Oso
of moment.
just wasn't that kind of dog. He's just not that kind of dog to
No.
be in, though, to act like those two did.
No, and it would have been, and it's like, so we then need to have to change our perception again of like, okay, so what does it mean to like own a dog? You know, we had these pipe dreams of like, oh, you know, it's just like you just have a dog and you just like take them wherever and they just listen to you whenever and they can always share things and, you know, it's just like
They'll learn the training as the life goes
Yeah,
on.
they'll
They'll learn
learn
all this stuff as it goes along.
and that just was not the case, you know. And so like, leave the resources behind, don't add to the environment, you know. Like, the dogs were perfectly okay just existing together in that environment, doing their thing. And then it's like, and then we have to jack everyone up by adding in this ball, you know. Everyone gets adrenalized. And if you're watching us, maybe you're watching other trainers who follow like our kind of philosophy, but you'll probably hear it a lot of like, dogs who get overexcited make poor choices. It's the nature of the beast, you know. So that's why calmness is always striving, you know, where everyone's always striving for calmness. Like, socials with other dogs should be nice and calm. You know, one of my mentors calls it like a cocktail party, you know, not a mosh pit, a cocktail party. What's a cocktail party look like? People are just like hanging out, just mingling ever so slightly, you know. Oh, hey, how are you? Shaking hand, like not screaming at each other or jumping on their back and like rodeo riding them down the hall, you know. Like, it's not like that, right? So, because if it gets like that, things are going to get out of hand, right? Or they have a high potential for getting out of hand, you know, because there's all those variables. Like, can you call your dog out of these things? Can you be relevant enough to stop play if it's getting too rough, is it reciprocal? Is it, our dog's getting bullied? There's just so much to look for. And on top of all that stuff to look for, we don't want to be adding something in that could just be contributing more to that, right? So again, it goes with food, it's like, if you want to teach your dog tricks at your house, not in front of your friend's dog.
Yeah.
You want to use treats, cool, do it. By all means, treat the crap out of your dog, but save it for your alone time, because then that's building engagement, that's building relationship, that's you and your dog connecting.
Yeah, and that kind of just makes you think about, again, it's like also knowing your dog, right? And so it's like, you don't want to put your dog into that situation, just because, I have a dog and you have a dog doesn't mean they need to be sitting next to each other eating their bowls off the same bed.
Yeah.
It's like, no, you can be over there, you can be over there.
Or feeding them in their kennels.
Feed them in the kennels, Like, if my dog was dodgy around other dogs, I'm not going to try and feed her sitting next to another dog.
Yeah, especially if it's like a strange dog.
Exactly.
One that's like,
maybe one that she doesn't see all the time. If I were to take my dog to my parents' house, she doesn't know those dogs.
Yeah.
I'm not going to expect her, I'm not going to have that expectation that she's going to want to, oh yeah, let's share some food. Let's share these toys. I just don't, Polka's not like that. Don't get me wrong, she probably want to play with them, but it's like, I don't want to put her in that position to things can get dicey. I don't want to put the other dogs in that position because I don't know them that well, and so it's like, read the dog,
Yeah, read the dog. But, I guess, it just comes back like resources are tricky, and I think it would be safe to say that, if you're going to bust out resources, it should be between you and your dog. And if there's other dogs around, leave the resources behind.
Agreed.
Right? I mean, that seems pretty cut and dry.
Yeah. No, I totally can agree with that.
You could be playing ball with your dog, and then you see your dog coming up. All right, I'm putting the ball away. Go play.
Yeah.
No more ball. Cool. Now you guys can go have a good time, and we don't have to worry about anything, and then that dog leaves. Oh, okay, we'll bring out the ball again, if you still got energy or, what have you. It's like, we don't even do that with our own dogs, and they all are really good together. Polka and Lucy are like best friends, and they don't we don't throw a tug toy in the middle of the room here and then let them go figure it out, who's gonna get it, who's gonna take it, and all of these things. It's like,
I'm not gonna have the expectation they're gonna play tuggy together.
No, they're just
what I mean?
They're not. And so we're going to have one of them on place while I'm playing with one of them.
Yeah, because one thing that could happen could be oh, I got that tuggy, and the other one's oh, but I want the tuggy, and then, but you can't have it because it's my tuggy.
And then it's a fight, and then it's like a slippery slope after all of that stuff, right? And so that's what all of this stuff leads up to. It's like, if your dog gets into a fight, there's a lot more riding on that than anything else, the dog could lose trust in other dogs, could lose trust in you. I mean, it's a slippery slope from that, they could get even heavier in the resource guarding, where they start resource guarding things from you. And I mean, that's just a whole nother can of worms that we don't want to get into with our own dogs, because it can get pretty nasty. Again, we've been at this for a long time, and we hear of all of the unfortunate stories from folks and their own dogs who are actively biting them. Seriously. So we can avoid those kinds of things by just taking some of these little necessary steps of I control resources, and it's not coming from a power dominance thing. It's just
you're leading the dog, you're guiding the dog
it
along
just is
to
what
help
it
make
is.
better choices.
It just is what it is. You know, it's not trying to be power hungry or something like that. So I think that's going to be it for today, everyone. Gone pretty good, about 25 minutes. So yeah, I think just to wrap up, if you have resources, if you want to play with resources with your dog, save it for you and your dog. If there's other dogs around, you know, if it's your other dog in the house, have them be on place and practice impulse control while you're working your other dog, and then vice versa, flip them around. I mean, like, that's just good training, you know. But yeah, keep the resources up, go have fun, and there's a time and place for that kind of stuff, right? So anyways, as always, thank you so much for taking time out of your day to listen to us. I know we were on a little bit of a hiatus. It's been a little slammed over here. We've just had a lot of stuff going on. So we kind of, we're
picking this back up.
You know, we're just a little bit behind, but we're getting back on track. And as always, you know, we're on YouTube, we're on Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn. You can find us on TikTok. All the social channels. You know, the podcast is going to be up on iTunes, Spotify, Google Play. I mean, like,
wherever you check your podcast.
Yeah, wherever you check your podcasts. You know, and if you all find value in this, definitely please share it so that other people can benefit from it. If you benefited from it, you know, you never know who, you know, is going to need to hear this as well. So share it, and yeah, we will talk to you all next time. I hope you all enjoy the rest of the day.
See you later.
Happy training. Ciao.